Hey, everybody, welcome back to your Inside Track to Success. I'm your host, Stewart Kraintz. Super excited to have you here today. I think we got a really great show for you. It's going to be another solo run with yours truly, but should be a lot of excellent, amazing value that I'm hoping and I'm actually certain will be applicable to each and everybody, either catching this on the podcast version or watching this on YouTube. And I want to thank everybody first and foremost who's tuned in already, listened to the podcast, listened to the show. It's this again has been a dream of mine to pour out all of my knowledge that I have in the mindset, success, and relationship space. And more importantly, I just want to help you live a better life, like whatever that means for you, whether you're just looking to build a stronger family dynamic within your home or gunning for that promotion or building that business, whatever the goal is for you, I am here to help you get there. And so I hope that this continues to be valuable for you because that's the intent. I think that we're all given a certain set of skills and, even something that we are naturally talented at. And I just want to share my gifts with you, which is supporting people with this type of information and more importantly, applying it to their lives. So, first couple of episodes have been great. You can absolutely catch them on Spotify, on YouTube, and getting those uploaded pretty quickly here on the other platforms as well, anywhere podcasts can be found. But those are the main places so far. So if you've missed them, definitely go back, check them out. Give you a lot of good information there. Had a great interview with Brendan Kamarasamy of Master Talk. Can't wait to have him on again down the line. I'm sure it will be absolutely sensational and valuable for helping you up level your presence, your public speaking, and even just enriching the relationships you have. And I'm pretty sure all of us could benefit from, maxing out our relationships in our lives, whether it's with colleagues, with loved ones, with our significant other, or even just with ourselves. And so that was a really awesome dynamic conversation. Definitely check that out as well. So, getting into it today, very first episode of this show, we talked about how to build self confidence. And I said it at least 20 times, going to say it here again. We build self confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. And this first episode of the show got a lot of very awesome feedback. I think it challenged a lot of people. The idea of building the self-confidence by, again, keeping your promises to yourself, sure, but acknowledging yourself seemed to be the piece that was challenging a lot of people. And so, it's just something to look at for yourself. I mentioned it on that episode, but acknowledging yourself is actually not about stroking your ego, making you feel that you're more than or having some type of hyperinflated sense of self. It's actually about disarming and disrupting your ego. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about today, guys. So, this episode is 5 ways to kill your ego. And I think maybe the most important place to dive in is just starting off by explaining what the ego is and why it matters. So, the ego is part of, the human psyche. It's part of your personality. It's part of what makes you you. But it's also the part of your brain that does not care about your happiness, your success, any of your goals, any of your dreams, does not care. Your ego is only concerned with your survival. So if you ascribe to the theory of evolution, think of this as like your least evolved part of your brain. You go back to hunter gatherer times, this is the part of you that is worried that a woolly mammoth is going to step on you, or that you're not going to have food, or you're not going to have shelter, or whatever the thing may be. All it cares about is keeping you safe. And so thankfully, we're no longer in hunter-gatherer times. We can drive down the street to Kroger or Whole Foods or wherever you get your food. Shoot, we don't even need to do that nowadays. We can actually just order food on our phone and it comes to us. But because most of us are not in a place where we're actively fighting for our own survival, our egos in turn on our dreams. They turn against our goals. They turn against the things that we hold up as things that we want to do and want to achieve. But because they are outside of our comfort zone, our ego deems them to be scary, deems them to be unattainable, deems them to be, just out of reach, for lack of a better word. And so your ego is the part of your brain that throws everything up in your track, everything up in your on your track to success, to prevent you from getting after your goals and creating the life of your dreams. Bar none. So again, the ego is that part of your brain does not care about your happiness. It's most concerned about keeping you safe. So the ego is really tricky to discuss, and I can actually talk for hours about the ego and all of the ways it will show up to sabotage you, sabotage your success. And I am talking about self-sabotage, y'all. Like, it is your ego in the way causing the self-sabotage. Like, make no mistake about it. Those ways are numerous. And again, I can go on for hours. I do want to make sure this podcast episode is leaving you with some tips and tricks and tools. And I want that to be the main focus. Definitely plan to get somebody on here who is maybe a little more qualified to tell you all the ways in which the ego can short circuit your success. But just to give you some very, very broad strokes, maybe some of the heavy hitters, some of the greatest hits of the ego, so to speak, in terms of how the ego is disruptive to your success. And so thinking about the ego, knowing that it just wants to keep you safe, knowing that it doesn't care at all about your dreams. Self-sabotage and all of its permutations is the number one way in which the ego prevents you from moving forward. So some of the ways it can do that are primarily through limiting beliefs. So if you have a goal, I want to have a certain job or a certain career path, or I want to release a specific amount of weight. If you have a thought in your head that is like, yeah, but, or yes, however, that's almost guaranteed to be your ego, y'all. Like, every single time. Because your highest self wants your goals, wants your dreams, but the ego is there telling you why it cannot happen. So if you hear that, yeah, but, if you hear that, excuse me, if you hear that, yeah, but, if you hear that, yeah, however, that's something to look at. And the reason the ego is so convincing is because oftentimes a lot of what we yeah, but ourselves to death on, or yes, however ourselves on, are based in reality, are based in truth. Like, there's absolutely an element of truth to whatever your set of circumstances are in your life. And some of them are very real. And some of them have far-reaching ramifications, like needing to put food on the table for your family, needing to keep a roof over your head, all those things. Not here to debate that. However, if your base needs are being met, it's absolutely your ego just getting in the way. And also, your ego prevents you from thinking creatively. It prevents you from seeing that higher possibility for yourself. It is so concerned with you staying small and safe that it keeps you in your comfort zone. It prevents you from making those cold calls. It prevents you from applying for that job, from asking that person out on a date. And it also prevents you from seeing the non-obvious ways of how to go about these things. Because nobody's going to give you permission to go after your goals. It's on you. So if your ego is going to get in the way, that's just another part of yourself that you get to overcome so that you are taking action on the goal. It's plain and simple. And so think about it this way, like if you're somebody that has a job, pays pretty well, covers the bills, but you're miserable. Like you hate this thing. You can't stand it. Your ego is going to be like, yeah, but I get amazing health insurance. Or I get you know, we just paid off the car. It seems kind of silly when I'm framing it this way, but those are examples of how your ego inserts itself into you looking for another job to prevent you from doing that in this case. Yeah, but I just oh man, I almost have the 529 account for the kids fully funded. Yeah, but we're going to go to Disney in the fall. Again, they're valid. They're valid excuses, but there's also not a lot of creative thinking going there. It's getting the ego is getting you to focus on the problem and not on the solution or not on the higher possibility of creating other sources of income or, you know, stepping into your network for referrals or anything that could get you moving towards a place of fulfillment. Because again, the ego does not care about your happiness. It just wants you to be safe. And safe also means choosing the status quo, even if it's killing you. Which leads me to my next point, another thing to look at. And this is a lot of people I know, unfortunately, and I'm actually guilty of this myself. A lot of people don't realize that one of the ways your ego will keep you from moving forward is by creating distraction. Like you want to do all these things with your life, but your ego is creating distraction to prevent you from actually taking the action to go do the thing. So again, like how many people do you know, and be honest if this is you, how many people do you know that have dreams to do anything like start a YouTube channel, start a podcast, start going to the gym, start spending more time with family, y'all. But they schedule themselves to death to the point that they don't have time for themselves, let alone any of these pursuits. Because for some of us, and again, this has been a story for me historically, chaos can be your comfort zone too. For many of us, busyness is a comfort zone because our egos love the validation of doing things without any meaningful movement, because meaningful movement would mean leaving the comfort zone. So if you got like a pile of laundry to fold, but you know it would mean a lot more to your son if you went and threw the football with him out back, maybe that laundry can wait, especially if one of your goals is to create more committed, connected time with your kid. Things like that. And again, those are really just two of the ways the ego presents itself, and the ego shuts you down, keeps you small, keeps you in your comfort zone. And there are infinite ways, truly. But I think that those are the two ways I see over and over and over again, either in my own lived experience or in the experience of the clients that I coach. And really, that's what a mindset coach does, guys. It's helping people get past their ego, taking the committed action each and every day towards their goals and getting them moving in the direction towards progress of creating the life of their dreams. So, again, your ego is the part of your brain, it's the least evolved, wants to keep you safe because we're no longer hunter gatherers. It focuses on killing your dreams because dreams are unfamiliar. And more importantly, the work to achieve your dreams is outside of your comfort zone. And the ego does not like to be uncomfortable. So, embracing discomfort, choosing to do the hard thing each and every day is one of the key pillars to pushing through your ego. Now, before I go into the 5 ways to kill your ego, I want to talk about one quick thing that's really important. So, for those of you that don't have a psychosomatic experience with your own body, this might sound a little foreign. What a psychosomatic experience or relationship is actually the word I mean. A psychosomatic relationship with your body. That is understanding how your thoughts and the physiology of your body are connected, and actually taking the time to feel into your body. So, just to give you a really quick example, the majority of people in American society live their life in their heads, thinking, analyzing, doing, lost in thought. You could be driving a car, maybe listening to this podcast, I'm not sure, fully engrossed in the podcast, not actually actively thinking about what it is you're doing, not actually thinking or even letting it like register in your mind. You're sitting in a car, you're moving at a certain speed down the road, you feel the air coming in through the AC vents. That's being disconnected. The connection piece is being fully present in the moment. So, again, in the car example, instead of listening to the music, getting fully engrossed in the music or the podcast or getting lost in thought, it is being aware of your body, being aware of your physical person exactly as you are in the moment in real time. So, noticing the lights changing, the lights going by of the moving cars. Maybe you have the window rolling down. You can hear the window rolling down, feeling the wind coming through the window, sticking your arm out the window and doing that like up and down motion with your arm and feeling the wind go over and underneath your arm and really allowing yourself to feel and experience that. That is presence. Presence matters, y'all, because your ego can almost never exist in presence. Your ego actually wants to take you out of presence by getting you to focus on the things that are going to keep you safe or keep you small for maybe lack of a better term. So that's all to say, when you're coming up against your ego, notice the lack of presence to your physical body. When you're coming up against your ego, you're often going to feel yourself really in your head, kind of like a tight, constricted, gross feeling in your chest or stomach or throat. For me, my voice actually gets higher when I'm in my ego. Like I actually talk from a higher, more constricted version of my voice. And that's a really weird thing to say out loud, but when I am my most present and living from my truth, not my ego, my voice drops an octave. It's a really interesting thing, and I didn't know that is what that was. But if you've ever experienced waking up in the morning and your voice is deeper, it's because in your sleep, you're in your body. You're not in your ego. And so if the ego has you in your head, has you in this kind of gross contractive space where everything's tight and small, think of that as like the actual physical manifestation of your ego trying to mold you into this comfort zone, like squishing you down into, y'all remember those little silly putty eggs that come in those little plastic eggs, like mushing you down like silly putty into that little egg. And when you're in your truth, when you're listening to your truth, when you come up with an idea, when you have an opportunity presented to you, when you have a money making opportunity or opportunity to go on a date or anything like that that excites you and you feel that kind of like butterfly feeling in your stomach or that expansive feeling in your chest, that's your truth, y'all. That is you. That is what you want, and that's your body actually trying to communicate it to you. All the time I ask my clients when they're facing a big decision, I ask them the question, how does it feel in your body? And if I need to coax them a little further, I'll ask, does this feel expansive or does this feel constrictive? Does this feel like a balloon expanding in your chest and body and you're full of excitement? Or does this feel like somebody's crushing you like a Coke can? The former is the truth. It's the goals. That's the dreams. That's the excitement. That's the vitality of life. Former is your ego. I mean, sorry, the latter is your ego. It's the part of you that is filtering your experience of life through all your past hurts, your past traumas, society's expectations of you, your friends, your spouses, your parents. It is the filtering of your life experience through every single thing that is not actually you. That is your ego. And again, I get really passionate about this because it really is just our egos more often than not that prevent us from having the dreams we want. To give you a really solid example, I wanted to be in the NBA growing up. I really did. I envisioned myself being like 6'9", 6'10", dunking on people, blocking shots, making all-star games, all that stuff. Now, I ended up being 6'2" and not very athletic. And I've said this before, I probably was not going to be in the NBA ever, but my ego definitely let me get in the way of maximizing my potential as a basketball player. And the ways in which that happened were allowing myself to take bad performances personally, choosing not to practice because, like, what's the point? You know, why would I push myself harder if I'm always going to get the same result? If I did have a good game, I would rest on my laurels way too hard and I'd get crushed the next game. And again, I just wouldn't work as hard as I needed to in order to maximize what I had. And maybe there is a reality where I could have played like small college basketball, maybe D3 or NAIA. We'll never know. And I know I wouldn't be here recording this podcast if I did. That's for sure. But the point being is your ego is doing its darndest to make sure that you do not live up to your full potential with your time on this earth. And to that point, your ego is actually the thing telling you you have all the time in the world. We don't, y'all. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So, again, I can talk about the ego forever. I might even do another podcast episode just on the way the ego presents itself, and it would be long, but it'd be worth it because they're infinite, the ways in which we hold ourselves back. So, to make sure you're walking away with something tangible and valuable today, I'm going to give you 5 ways that I myself use every day and use with my clients every day to kill the ego and to get to work on creating the dream. So number 1, and this is going to sound kind of silly, y'all, but bear with me. Like this is going to be some you got to trust Stu things here. But number 1 way to kill your ego is to name your ego. That's right. Name your ego. Treating your ego like a whole other persona, like a whole other part of you, actually works. Because what you're doing is you're making it a separate entity from yourself. So my ego's name is Carl. Can't believe I'm sharing this out loud, y'all, but here we are. I named my ego a couple of years ago. His name's Carl. Carl is lazy, talks a big game and never delivers, hates his body, isolates himself, doesn't want to take responsibility for anything, chooses to be a victim about the world and everything happening to him, never looks for the silver lining on anything. And the list goes on and on and on. Now, I've shared this on social media a couple times, but there's a photo of me at age 20, and I am the heaviest I've ever been in my life. You know, I have the worst haircut I could have ever possibly had because I thought so little about my personal appearance. Like I just didn't care. Like I just didn't think I mattered. And I was so committed to staying in my comfort zone that I let myself go. Like I ate like trash, y'all. That photo of me at age 20 is really Carl. We talk about these in our society, I should say, we talk about these glow up photos of the then and now. If you see somebody's before photo and you think about all the self-harm and self-loathing and all the other ways in which our ego, you know, hold us back, that is a period. That photo is taken from a period of their life in which their ego was winning. And man, was my ego winning during college. So Carl, affectionately, is not who I am anymore. And when I notice myself making the decisions Carl would make, I actually think to myself, damn it, Carl, not today. Or you're not going to win this one, Carl. Right before I hit record on this podcast, guys, I had to run 6 miles for a half marathon I'm running at the end of April. I did not want to run those miles. I sure did not. It's like 28 degrees here in Ohio today. But Carl is the part of me that doesn't want to run. Stu, the host of this podcast, the man who is building the life of his dreams, is helping other people do the same, runs those miles because it's not only going to push me towards my own goals, but it's giving others permission to do the same, especially on the days they don't want to. And that's really important, y'all. So by turning my ego into an entire other persona, it actually creates a level of separation to understand where I, in my highest self, begin and end, and where my ego lives. And some days Carl comes out and he really wins the day, but those days are few and far between because I'm consciously aware that that is not me. That is Carl. No offense to anybody listening to this name, Carl. That was just the name that came to me at the time I named him. So, number one, name your ego. Number two, grounding rituals. Grounding rituals are really important, y'all. And yes, I am going to go there with the airy fairy stuff today. Grounding rituals, similar to naming your ego, help you stay connected to your highest self and your truth, and helps you sort for yourself what you actually want and actually short circuits your ego's ability, Carl's ability in my case, to make decisions for you. Now, grounding rituals can look a bunch of ways. My advice, as always, is to do what works for you, but challenge yourself here. Like if there's something you find yourself especially resistant to, guess what? That resistance is your ego, just so you know. So take a look at that for yourself. But grounding rituals include meditation, they include journaling, exercise, eating healthy, sleep. Anything that you can do on a daily basis repetitively to get yourself grounded in who you are is going to pay dividends. And the news flash to all this, just like how going to the gym once doesn't make you in shape, meditating once doesn't solve this. Journaling once doesn't solve this. It's a cumulative effect each and every day, just like you're building a house, brick by brick by brick by brick. And you look back a couple weeks later and you got a nice little foundation there. Lay some more bricks, start to have a house you want to live in because it's you. And you're making decisions in your life going for your goals from a new place that feels like home because you're separating yourself. You're doing the work to separate yourself from your ego, from the Carl or whoever that is for you. And you're showing up for yourself in a way that really brings you back home to yourself. Stepping into fatherhood, y'all, has been the single greatest thing of my life. Meeting my wife, Jennifer, and her son Tucker absolutely changed my life. Jumping headfirst into being a parent for a then 7-year-old child was the single biggest challenge to my ego that I've ever taken on. And I'm just going to tell you right now, without grounding rituals, I wouldn't have made it. I am a better father to Tucker when I'm exercising. I am a better father when I'm eating healthy. I'm a better father when I sleep. Because when I do all those things, I know who I am. I'm able to come from my heart, from a place of love, and all the anger and judgment and frustration that Carl likes to bring, they don't even register as things to bring to that relationship with him, let alone the pursuit of my own goals. So, grounding rituals can look like anything, but they get to be every day, ideally at the same time, because your body gets to be in a habit. Habits are helpful for disrupting the ego and really just building your life, quite frankly. So, whatever works for you, do that. And again, if you're experiencing resistance, really look at that. If you're coming up with an excuse, it's probably your Carl trying to make that decision for you. So the third way, we've gone through two. One, name your ego. Two, grounding rituals. Three is evidence stacking. What is evidence stacking? Well, to put it in a sentence, we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. So when you are dreaming, declaring, delivering, the delivering is you stacking evidence for yourself that you can and are actually accomplishing your goals. And so that's why it's critically important that you then acknowledge that for yourself, because if you acknowledge that the evidence is there as you're creating it in real time, that will create more motivation for you to keep going, especially when it gets tough. Like if you're in a sales job, adding more opportunities, more sales opportunities to the top of your sales funnel is going to absolutely have you keep going towards your sales quota when you're getting a bunch of no's, when you get like 10, 20, 30, 100 no's in a row, because that evidence is there. Like you're providing some type of value. People are engaging with you. They want to talk to you about your product or your service. But if you ignore it, it's all for naught. You're actually letting your ego win. So, whatever you're up to, whatever your goals are, building your self confidence and acknowledging what you're creating for yourself, especially when you go outside of your comfort zone, it's basically flipping the bird to your ego. Like, just do it, y'all. Go for your goals, get after them, but acknowledge yourself for every micro win you get. Two people showed up to your show. Sweet. That's two more than zero, you know? Or you started a YouTube channel and you got 13 subscribers. Awesome. You could have zero. And like two of them left meaningful comments on your video. Those are all things to acknowledge yourself for, because it's going to short circuit your ego. It's going to kick Carl to the curb and it's going to make you keep going. So be sure to do that. Number one, name your ego. Number two, grounding rituals. Number three, evidence stacking. Number four, accountability relationships. So accountability, y'all, is a tricky one. It's kind of a double-edged sword, but accountability works. Having somebody to report to be responsible to, can absolutely get you moving past your ego and into action. Now, with that said, accountability only works if you and whoever you are accountable to are actually holding each other accountable. If it becomes a pity party, if it's holding each other low, if it's letting one another slide on what you've declared, not only is it not helping you get past your ego, it's actually letting your ego win. So, accountability partners can work. I prefer a coach. It's a lot of what I do is holding people to a by when. Realistic but stretchy goals. to make sure that they're doing the things to move themselves outside of their comfort zone so they take action. So for example, if you know you need to make 100 cold calls to get a sale for your organization, cool. By when are you going to have those 100 calls done? And I'll check in with you. That's accountability. Another form of accountability that works is building it into your life structurally. So, good example, if you have a vacation coming up, it's your dream vacation, you're going on a cruise to Alaska, let's say. You're super excited. It's the only state you haven't been to. You want to brag to all your friends you've been to Alaska. I bet you put the deposit down and then there's a pay by date for the balance. That accountability of the pay by date can be structurally built into your life. So if you owe the balance by June 1st, you can then do things like appropriate a portion of each paycheck from now until June 1st to that pay by date. You can also budget against it, knowing that you need to save an average of $100 a month extra, let's say, so it can go towards paying that balance. And the accountability comes in because if you don't do it, you can't go on the trip. That's another way accountability can be created, especially if you're finding yourself for a lack of qualified accountability partners. So, accountability, again, I think the highest form of accountability is the accountability towards yourself, being your word to yourself. Again, that's keeping your promises to yourself, but acknowledging yourself for what you have accomplished. That actually takes a while to build up towards, to have an ironclad level of discipline with yourself. We'll probably talk about that more on a later episode. So, in order, 5 ways of how to kill your ego. Number 1, name your ego. 2, grounding rituals. 3, evidence stacking. 4, accountability relationships. And 5, which I intentionally left for last, but it is absolutely not the least, y'all. 5 is therapy. Seeking professional help. Going and seeking support that is above and beyond what a mindset coach like myself is qualified to handle. And the reason I really want to land this for you guys is there are flat out just things that have happened in our past that have shaped our life experiences, that have shaped our egos in a way that's really harmful and self-destructive, that are holding us back. And seeking support from a licensed professional is actually, in some cases, the only way to really get underneath why the self-sabotaging behavior caused by the ego is occurring or continuing to occur. And I'm making up an example here, but particularly when you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, having somebody to talk to can really help you get underneath it. So, say you have childhood memories of being yelled at by your parents. And because of that, you're terrified of speaking up or presenting yourself in public. They could be long ago forgotten memories, or you maybe do remember them, but you don't see the correlation. But somewhere along the way, those past hurts, those past traumas caused you to believe a falsehood, a lie, a BS story about yourself that you don't have anything valuable to share with the world, that your voice doesn't matter. And so you stay quiet. And so maybe you have the dreams of being a singer or a songwriter or having a podcast or a YouTube channel. And you keep coming up with every way under the sun to not do the thing. When in reality, it's because of the past hurts from your childhood, from being yelled at, that made you believe that being quiet and not sharing your voice was how you had to get through life. That was just one example, and that was just straight off the top of my head. But I guarantee you that for almost everybody here, there are things that can be uncovered with the help of a licensed professional that get to be sorted out. That if you allowed yourself to sort out, would make all the difference. A mindset coach, a life coach like myself is going to do everything they can to get you from A to B. And some things are just above our pay grade. And that's just the facts. So take a good hard look, especially if you're noticing it's a pattern over and over again, especially if you hear yourself saying or even just thinking, why do I keep doing this same thing over and over and over again? Like when you're aware that there's a problem, but you don't know how to stop it, seek help. And I know therapy in this day and age can be expensive, but nothing's ever going to be more worth it than you and your dreams and your highest potential. None of us know how long we're going to be here on this earth, but I bet it would be a lot better and a much better story to tell our kids and our grandkids about how we overcame, persevered, and did the darn thing. Kicked Carl to the curb, created the life of our dreams. That's my hope for you in listening to this. So I believe in therapy. I have seen multiple therapists. I was at one point in my life seeing two therapists at the same time. Um, I don't regret a second of it, no matter how uncomfortable I felt, because I knew that I was healing. And so I hope that for you too. If you feel like you need that type of support, go do it. Figure it out. Figure out how to make it happen. There are great apps out there that can support you in getting connected to somebody, and you don't even have to leave your house. Just jump in the Apple Store, the Google Store, download it today. So again, guys, 5 ways to kill your ego. Number 1, name your ego. Make it a separate entity from yourself. Number 2, grounding rituals. Find something that works for you and do it every day. Bring yourself back home to yourself each and every day. Number 3, evidence stacking. We build self confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. Show your ego that you are doing the darn thing, is what I mean there. 4, accountability relationships. Find some people that are actually going to hold you high or create it structurally within your life so that you have to push through and do the thing. And 5, seek the help of a licensed therapist if necessary. Because you, your dreams, and the impact you can make on this earth are worth it. That's our show for today, guys. Again, this is Stu. This has been the Your Inside Track to Success podcast. Super excited to keep recording and keep moving through with this season, or not this season. We ain't gonna quit, y'all. This is what I feel like I get to do. But hope that this was valuable. If you got value from this, please share it with somebody so that they can get value as well. Also would appreciate it if you rated this podcast, and also if you hit the follow button, because those two things will have it pop up a bit more in search on Spotify and on YouTube, and then soon to be on other podcast platforms as well. Your support, which is very minimal effort on your end, goes a long way in helping grow the show, helping get it out to more people, and helping make an impact, and hopefully inspiring people into action around their goals. So as always, y'all, sending you all a lot of love. Thank you for joining us. Catch you next time.